back to Journey of a Fearless Female. And for those of you who are watching me on YouTube, hi, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. And if you haven't, and you just happen to be jumping on this page and you're like, what is she gonna talk about? I'm interested. Hit subscribe, because I talk all the woo-woo spiritual. I'm a life coach, I'm a spiritual mentor, and I talk about all the things that I'm learning on my own spiritual healing journey. And today I'm going to talk about how I recently went to go see Esther Hicks. Yes, Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham. And for those of you who are watching or listening right now and you're just kind of like, oh, that sounds a little bit creepy, a little weird. She has been channeling a spirit entity named Abraham for years. And she has like a huge following. I started listening to her on YouTube. Actually, she came up on my page, just like I came up on your page. She came up on my page and I just started listening to her content. I've read a couple of her books. The Vortex book, I think I have that on my shelf over there. Yes, The Vortex with Esther Hicks and her husband, Jerry Hicks. But my husband knew that I really liked her, and so he decided to get me tickets to go see her in Los Angeles. And so we went this last Friday. And guys, I took 15 pages worth of notes. 15 pages. That's how much, like, how incredible she is. And, well, how incredible Abraham is, who speaks through her. And if you don't believe in that, then, and she's putting on this show that she's channeling some other guy, I don't care what she's doing, because the things that come out of her mouth speak volumes to my soul, and they should speak volumes to your soul. So if you're watching this and you're not weirded out by now, or you're listening to this and you're not weirded out by now, and you want to hear the nuggets of wisdom that I learned while being at this event, the 15 pages, don't worry, I'm not going to bore you. I'm not going to go through every single page, but I am going to go through the ones that I highlighted in every single page. So first, if you're thinking about going to an Esther Hicks event, then I highly recommend, get there early. If you can, stay in the hotel in which she is having the event so that you can get up early, go down, and save your spot, because there's no assigned seating, there's no pay extra, and you can be in the VIP area like if you go to a Tony Robbins event. There is just, a free-for-all. So even though the event started at 1 in LA, and it takes us about an hour to get to LA, and we got up early, I was trying to get out of here by 10:30, we were still late. By the time we got there about an hour early before. The entire facility was packed, jam-packed. I was kind of a little upset, because I told my husband I did not want to sit in the back. I wanted to sit as close to the front as possible. And I did not expect the turnout of like so many people. And at first I sat in the back in the middle, but then I realized I know my husband loves an aisle seat. So we sat on an aisle. I moved us forward. We were like probably 4 or 5 rows back on the very left-hand side. And he had his aisle seat, and I sat next to him, and I was just looking around the room, man. So many different people from so many different backgrounds, different races, it was just incredible to see, because if you Google Abraham or Jerry Hicks or Esther Hicks or whatever, she's an older woman. And I don't know, you just kind of imagine, especially the videos that she puts out on YouTube, it's kind of like an older generation. So you think like, oh, you're going to see all these older people there, all these spiritual people. And really you see people from all ages, all backgrounds, all skin tones. Like I was shocked and I was so happy, because it makes me feel like, wow, like we're all waking up at the same time. It's like amazing. It's amazing that no matter what, I'm getting goosebumps. No matter what you, where you were born or what you believe in, we're all just kind of starting to like wake our souls up. And this is what I love about her, because this is what she talks about, is like the law of attraction is real, and it's a universal law, and we all have access to it. And there was a time in my life when I first read the book, The Secret, and I really kind of tried to debunk it. I thought, like, there's no way that this is going to work for me. You know, I'm Mexican, I come from not so great beginnings, and, you know, there's no way I'm ever going to make that kind of money or live in that kind of house or drive the kind of car that they're promising you in this book, right? She talks a lot about this. In the beginning, and I didn't know what to expect, like how this whole entire, like this was my first ever Esther Hicks event. And I actually watched a couple of YouTubers and TikTokers talk about going to an event, but they never really describe like how to prepare or what to expect or, you know, what to bring. And honestly, this is your tips, okay? Because I've been to so many events. I've been to a ton of Tony Robbins events. I've been to see Jack Canfield. I've gone to see Oprah live when she fell on the stage and had J-Lo as a guest. I have seen Gabrielle Bernstein when she launched her book, Judgment Detox. I have seen Eckhart Tolle, Sadhguru. I mean, I have really gone to go see these people. I wish I would have been able to go see Wayne Dyer, but unfortunately he passed before I could even like think about going to see him. Because honestly, there was a time in my life that I just read all the books and consumed all the knowledge here on YouTube or listened to the podcast episodes. And I never thought like to actually go and see them. I never thought like I should pay money to go see these people live. I never thought that until I met my husband, who was, you know, who he was like, I'll get you tickets. And so when he got his tickets for Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks, I was super excited. I actually didn't want to pay the money because it was kind of expensive. I think it was like $500 per person. And I'm kind of a cheapo, and my husband's a spender. So he's like, we're going to do it. Like, you have the money, we have the money, let's go do it. And so we did it. And first off, you know, I want to tell you that when you go to a Tony Robbins event, if you've never been to a Tony Robbins event, I highly recommend to dress like you are going to snowboarding, if you're going skiing, or if you're going to the mountains, or if you're going to the Alps. Like, literally, Tony Robbins makes all of his events, conferences, freezing cold, like freezing cold, because he's trying to keep you awake throughout the entire conference. So that's always in the back of my mind. So I'm always making sure that I take like a jacket or something to keep me warm. And so I took a jacket, and as I was leaving, I remember that when I go to Tony Robbins events, they hardly ever give you any breaks. So I had the wherewithal to like go into the pantry and grab bags of chips and nuts. And I wish I would have grabbed waters, but I didn't. I only grabbed chips and nuts, and I put them in my purse, and we rushed out the door. And when we got there, there was traffic, first of all, LA. We got there and there was a huge line. And I thought that was the line to get in, but that was the line for you to pay for your parking. And I thought, well, we valeted. Maybe I don't have to pay for the parking until I get out of the hotel and pay at the valet stand to get my keys back, which is how it normally works. And so then my husband went and stood in line to get us waters. And I walked towards the event past the parking line, and this lady checked my ticket, gave me a wristband. She would not give me a wristband for my husband, even though I told her he was on his way. She needed to see him, his face, and the ticket. And once he arrived, she gave him a wristband, and they were kind of really picky about like making sure that you had a wristband so nobody could just walk into the event, which is kind of like a Tony Robbins deal too. You have like a lanyard, or you have to make sure that you are on the list. Like, it's very like, they make sure that you paid your money to go into this conference. And like I said, when I first got there, we tried to sit in the back, and well, I tried to sit in the back, but I scoured the front and sat 3 or 4 rows in front on the very left-hand side of the conference room. And in the middle, my husband went to the bathroom, and he said there was people standing in the back of the room. Like, there was no more seats, and people were literally sitting and standing in the back of the room to be at this event. So she is like the real deal, the big thing. And I don't know, if you don't want to believe in that, that's fine. That's up to you. You can stop and pause right now. But if you're interested, I did take 15 pages worth of notes. So how she runs it is she goes into a place where she just stands there, and she is so good at being able to put herself in a place where she can channel Abraham, and then Abraham speaks through her. And as she's standing there, she calls on anyone in the audience, and then that person comes to the chair and they have a conversation. And if you've ever watched any of her YouTube videos, you know, you see these little cartoons of her and the person that's asking the question. Well, they're on stage in front of you, and the person gets to ask a question to Abraham. And so it was like 2 to 3 people, and then there was a 25-minute break, 2 to 3 people, a 25-minute break, 2 to 3 people, and then it was over, because it was from 1 to 4. It was basically like 3 hours, or 3 hours, or is it 4 hours? I'm not good at math. I wasn't. It's fine. So the first person that asked the question, I loved how she stopped him in the middle and was like, or Abraham stopped him and said, you don't need to over-explain yourself. And, we always over-explain ourselves, and we need to let go of the thoughts of injustice and victimhood. Because when we try to talk to people, and I do this too, I'm actually very guilty of this. I talk about, you know, my childhood and how I grew up. And so she said, we need to stop focusing on where we were, and we need to start focusing on where we want to be and where we are presently. So a lot of the time we spend a lot of our focus energy. I like how she says focus. She says focus. She says focus. It sounds like, yeah, like it sounds, but it's focus. She says you spend so much time focusing on the past and explaining and over explaining the past that we don't stop to focus on the present moment or on the future. And she did this like amazing example about the boiling egg. And like, for those of you who are into law of attraction and want to manifest your dreams, this really made a lot of sense, because she says, we do this a lot when we're trying to manifest things. Let's say the egg, she calls it the boiling egg. Let's say the egg is your dream, your goal, your desire. And so you're so excited about this dream, this goal and desire. So you put it on the oven, like you put it in the manifesting kitchen, ready for God to make your dream come true. But then you turn on the fire, and you're so freaking excited about this dream, this goal, this desire. But then before you even talk to your friends, you kind of turn down the flame a little, because you have self-defeating thoughts or self-doubts or negative thoughts telling you, who are you to get that, right? And then you make the mistake to go and tell your friends about your dream, desire, your goal, and then they tell you how it's impossible, or it might not work, or it's not going to happen. And so when that happens, you then turn down the flame a little bit more and a little bit more. So now it's taking you longer to boil the egg. And then you stare at the egg, she says, and you're waiting for it to happen. And then that takes you longer for the water to boil, for it to come into fruition. And she says, we need to understand that this world speaks in energy, frequency, and emotions. And so when we are vibrating at a high frequency, at a high energy, where we're just excited, we're just eager, we're in love, we're joy, we're gratitude, that we are vibrating at the highest frequency, we're also, the flame is super high, and what we dream, what we desire, what we want is coming to us faster. But when we have self-defeating thoughts, when we have fear, when we have anxiety, when we have stress, when we have doubts, the flame goes down lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, to the point where there's probably no more flame. And it's taking you a while to boil that egg, or to make your dream or your desire a reality. I thought that was a really great explanation. I love that she says that, yes, we are always going to have problems. She says, as long as you're in the human body, you will always have disappointment. I mean, that's just normal. It's part of the human experience. But she says, I want you to be aware of how you feel, because your enthusiasm is the cause of what makes the water boil, of what creates your desire, your rockets of desire become a reality. She says, but we are incessantly explaining and over-explaining ourselves of where we are and why we are here. Okay, so my client said that I can share this. She wanted to know how to ask for a raise. And so she called me and said, hey, I'm thinking about asking for a raise and I would really like your advice. And so I said, okay. And before I could even start on giving her advice, she went on and on and on for about 15 to 20 minutes about how long she's been there, how much money she was making when she started, the hours she's working. I mean, she was giving me every detail and even being hesitant in describing like exactly what she does for 6 to 7.5 hours. She was overly trying to explain the reasons why she should get a raise. And I stopped her and I remembered what Esther Hicks said, is that we are incessantly explaining why we are where we are. And she says, we need to stop trying to retrace our steps to find where we made our mistakes and just focus on where we are and where we want to go. She even told this story about one time when her and her husband were at some other state that they didn't know. They were doing a conference and they get in the car and she punched in her GPS the address of the next location. Let's just say they were going to a restaurant. And when they were going towards the restaurant, Jerry noticed that she got lost. And Jerry told Esther, like, you got lost, you should, and she's like, wait a minute, what do you mean I got lost? Okay, let's go back to point A and retrace my steps, and so I could figure out what I did wrong so that I don't make the same mistake and then go. And Jerry was like, why can't we just, from where we are, pull over and make a correction in our course and keep going? But that's what we do. We always want to go back to point A from the moment that we made a mistake, or we try to figure out all the steps of where we went wrong. And we do that incessantly. And that's the reason why we spend so much time explaining why we are where we are and why we're not where we should be, instead of just making a course correction and moving forward and not spending any time, any energy, any focus on the past. All right, now I'm on page 3 of my notes. She says that everybody has been taught where you have been right or wrong. Like, people are constantly pointing out to you where you made a mistake. And so we carry that baggage everywhere in life. People will tell you, or even yourself, you can self-criticize or self-analyze yourself so much to the point where you kind of remember your mistakes and you're like, oh, that's where I made a mistake. Damn, I shouldn't have gone out with him on that date, or I shouldn't have picked up that phone, or I shouldn't have gone to that party, or I shouldn't have, said yes to this, or I wish I would have never taken this job. We analyze ourselves and we remember where we went right, where we went wrong, and then we carry the baggage of where we went wrong everywhere with us. And she says, we need to figure out that we are a good person, that we should give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, that we need to stop following the rules that everyone else has placed on us, and that trust in the wholeness of you, because the wholeness of you is acceptance, deservability, and loved unconditionally. She says, remember to focus on your inner guidance. And I love that she calls it your inner guidance. You can call it your soul. You can call it spirit. You can call it the God within us. Whatever you want to call it, but we all have it. All right. I'm on page 4 now. I'm going to try to skip ahead because I'm already 20 minutes in this video and I don't want to bore you. But she says it takes a while for us to accept our deservability. And then she says the infinite intelligence has so much lined up for you, but we are missing it because we're trying to keep the rules that have been indoctrinated in you. So there was one guy that stepped up and said, I'm doing so good and I've grown spiritually and I've evolved and I'm so excited. And he even said, the bagels runneth over. And if you were there, you understand that comment. He's like, I just have so much and I'm so thankful and I've manifested. But there was one thing that I did in my past and I feel like I'm not standard to the integrity, or not holding myself up to the same integrity. And so therefore, like, I feel like I need to go back and rewrite the wrong. And she said, is anyone asking you to rewrite the wrong? Like, is there someone out there that is like needing you to rewrite the wrong? And he's like, no. He's like, did you hurt anybody? No. Well, then what are you doing? Why are you holding on to this pain of trying to make something right when you are clearly so far ahead of that wrong, and that's in the past? And she said, we need to be solid in what we know, because we tend to think that there's a different plan for us. And if we can become solid in what we know and really get aligned with our inner guide, with spirit, with our soul's purpose, that we're going to do what we were born to do. And yes, we will kind of detour and kind of make a wrong turn on the road, but eventually we'll get back on course, because soul, spirit, the divine is constantly pushing you towards your purpose. So now on page 6, it says that you are always evolving and growing. And how can you teach if you're not evolving and growing? Like, which is funny, because I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking on the phone. She's going through a breakup, and she, like, after talking to me for 20 minutes, she's like, dang, you're good. And I'm like, yeah, I know, people pay me to coach them, and I'm doing this for free for you because you're my friend. And and she's like, you're really good. Like, how did you become so good, Pay? And that's my nickname. And I was like, I don't know. I've just been learning, and I've been reading, and I've been going to conferences like the Esther Hicks one, and I've been watching YouTubes and listening to podcasts and listening and, you know, learning from other healers and coaches and spiritual mentors. And you know, I don't always take everything and I'm like, oh, everything is like the word. No, I listen and I hear with an open heart, and like everything, advice is like a coat. And if it fits, I'll wear it. If it doesn't, and it makes me feel like uncomfortable, then I won't go there. Like, I had somebody point out this lady's meditation, and she's like, oh my God, you've got to listen to it. And so I hit play, and she starts off with, welcome, abandoned soul. And I was like, I am not abandoned. Like, I belong to Jesus, the King of all kings, like to source, to the divine, to the great I am. So I'm not abandoned, and this does not feel good with me. So I quickly hit pause, and that's not for me. I know what feels right. Like, we can trust our gut and have that instinct, that inner guide within us, always pushing us down the right road. When we don't listen to the inner guide, when we kind of like ignore the red flags or those gut feelings, then that's when we go down the wrong road. But don't worry, we always course correct. In the sessions, she would always ask people to choose a door. So like, somebody was talking about, you know, I've been diagnosed with ADHD or something like that, or ADD. And he's like, so I have trouble concentrating. And she's like, yeah, you could choose that door if you want and go with what people told you you are. Or you can choose another door and say, you know, we're not meant to be the same. And I've been blessed with a different perspective, and it serves me well. I love that. I love that. Because everything that happens in our life, we can choose that door. Sorry, somebody's calling me. We can choose that door, or we can choose a different door and go down that door, right? We can choose to be afraid. We can choose to be stressed. We can choose to be broke. We can choose to be whatever someone defined us to be, or we can choose another door, and we can be who we want to be. And we can have a new perspective, and it could be surrounded with love and joy and happiness and peace and freedom. So I'm on page 7. I only have 5 more minutes because I have to go. I have to go after this. My husband is at hockey practice, and I want to take a really nice bath. So I'm going to shorten this up. So I love that she says the world is communicating with vibrations, not words. And the world wants you to conform, but you are infinite energy that never ceases to exist, and you cannot be conformed. So you have to be always in the vibrational offering of what you want in this world. So if you want more love, be in the vibration of love. If you want more joy, be in the vibration of joy. If you want more freedom, be in the vibration of freedom. If you want more creativity, be in the vibration of creativity. But most of us, she says, are in the vibration that is covered in shoulds and woulds, and we're too busy trying to observe, defend, and describe and over-explain. I was like, oh, that's true. That's so true. She says you have to stand in your power of happiness, joy, freedom, love, and gratitude. And the more you are sitting in that moment of emotion, the more that you're going to bring a higher vibration to yourself, the more that your egg is going to boil and it'll be ready. Your dream, your desire, your goal will be ready for you. Okay. And she says, trust in divine timing. There is a lot of things clicking into place and that you are not aware of, and you just need to have patience. Some things take a long time to boil. So for example, one of the biggest things that I wanted was to be married. When I got the book, The Secret, in 2006 or 2008, I didn't get married until 2017. So yeah, some things take a while to boil, but don't worry, it is on its way to you. But remember, if you want it to come faster, then stop turning down the flame. Stop trying to allow other people to bring doubt to you. Okay. She says, always be aware of the fact that you are creating whatever it is. So she says, do you want love in your life or do you want hate? Do you want clarity or do you want confusion? Do you want to be sure or do you want to be tentative? Do you want to be known or do you want something new? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be sad? Because we get to create these feelings within us. And I wanted to share a story. Recently, I woke up with a lot of anxiety and fear and confusion. I was really stressed out over business. If you're an entrepreneur, you understand what that is. And I was freaking out. I was really, really freaking out. And I was crying and I was like, I don't understand. I've been working at this for the last 2.5 years. And why can't I just monetize this or create money here? Or, why aren't my revenue streams like just, runneth over? And at that moment, this person called me, and she's amazing. I've created such an incredible network of women who are in this spiritual healing light path phase of their life, and she gave me this amazing technique. So she called me to talk about something else, to make an appointment for something else, and she's like, hey, is everything okay? And I was like, oh, I'm just having a morning. And she's like, well, she didn't even ask about the appointment or anything. She just like, well, what's going on? I love that. I love that she, instead of just going to like, me, what do I want? How can you serve me? She was like, how can I serve you? And she said, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you're feeling right now. And I said, well, I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling anxiety. And she's like, all right, take a deep breath with me. And we did a couple of deep breath sessions. And then she said, know that the spirit of fear is not from God. It's not from source. It's not from divine. It's not from the truth. And she said that God gives us clarity and peace and happiness and love. And she said, take a deep breath and breathe that in. Breathe what God gives you, which is clarity, truth, love, peace. And then when you release it, she's like, pretend you're holding a jar. And when you're releasing the fear, the anxiety, pour it into the jar, pour it in. So as you're breathing in, peace, love, clarity, joy, freedom, you feel that. And then as you breathe out, you're going to breathe out what is not the spirit of God, because it's not from God. It's not from truth, which we come from truth. And then she said, pour it into the jar. And then with your other hand, when you feel like you've done enough breaths to remove that spirit of fear, then close the jar. And she's like, and then keep that beep in the jar. And I was like, that's so true. And I felt so good after that. Like no longer did I feel the feelings of fear or anxiety or stress. I felt so much better. And I love that, because that's what Esther Hicks was talking about. Okay, so I'm only on page 11, but there's so much to talk about. Okay, so maybe I'll do another video. Okay, so I just want to end with this, because she did talk about this all the time. She says, she told this last story. I'm just going to end with this because it related so much to my life. She said that this other guy came in and was on the stage and wanted to thank Jerry, her husband, who's passed away. And he was talking about how great of a manifestor he was. And she was told a story of when he wanted to take a picture with the prime minister. And that for weeks before the event, he would tell everyone, I'm taking a picture with the prime minister. I'm going to take a picture with the prime minister. And nobody, whoever said anything to deter him or to make him feel as if it's not going to happen, he didn't budge. He just continued to feel that and say it with authority. I am going to take a picture with the prime minister. And it reminded me, and he eventually did take a picture with the prime minister. It reminded me of my Christmas tree story. And if you are new to my channel or new to my podcast and you've never heard the story, I'm going to tell it to you. And if you heard it already, well, here it is again. In 2016, I was single. Man, I was so single. I had been single for over, I would have to say 2 years, maybe 2016, almost 3 years actually. My last boyfriend was toxic, and after that relationship that was emotionally and physically abusive, I was I'm done. I don't want to be with anybody. And I really went through my really dark night of the soul. And God, I was so in this place of, I'm okay being single. I had moved out into a really nice apartment, bought really nice furniture, and it was December of 2015. No, when did me and Travis go out? 2015. Yeah, it was December of 2015 in the beginning of the month. And I finally had enough money to buy my own Christmas tree. So rewind, look at me. I am over explaining. Okay, let's not even talk about, this is the first time I'm not going to over explain, but it was the first time I can have a Christmas tree. And I had asked my nephew to come with me, because I lived in the second story apartment, to bring this huge Christmas tree up the stairs. And I was so excited. I love Christmas. It makes me so just excited. The season is just joy and happiness and red and Santas. And I just love Christmas. And so I had bought these 99-cent Christmas decorations, and I had turned on Mariah Carey, and I was just in this state of bliss and joy and happiness. And I'm singing Mariah Carey's, Christmas song. And I'm looking at my Christmas tree, and I turned to my nephew and I said, I am going to decorate this tree with my husband next year. And he about choked on what he was eating on the couch. And he said, Paola, you're not even dating anybody. You're not even on any apps. What are you talking about? But nothing he said can deter me from that feeling, that emotion of I am going to decorate this tree with my husband next year. I'm getting excited just even thinking about it. And I kid you not, within a couple of weeks, Travis asked me out on a date. And the following year, in 2016, I was decorating that Christmas tree in our new home, and we were married. So yes, it works. It really, really works when you are in the language of how the law of attraction works, on how the universe works, on how the world works. And the language is emotion, vibration, and frequency. And that was what Esther Hicks wanted us to understand, is that when we are in the emotion of vibration and frequency, we can have, do, and be anything we want. And just keep launching those rockets of desires and flying on your high disc, and understand that it's all working out for your highest good and the highest good of all. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys. And should you go to an Esther Hicks, or you've been to one, I would love to hear how your experience was. Put it in the comments. If you're listening to this on Journey of a Fearless Female, the podcast, thank you for tuning in. Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. And if you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual mentor, you can book a free discovery call with me at www.fearlessfemale.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at fearlessfemale_coach, subscribe to my YouTube channel at fearlessfemale, or find me on TikTok. I'm under at paola.rosser. And if you love this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. I read every single review, and I truly appreciate the time you spend writing it.